Hi, and thanks for joining me for this video tutorial where I'll be walking through onboarding a MultiTech Conduit AP gateway into a free Senate Developer Portal account. I'll also be demonstrating how to configure the gateway as a basic station packet forwarder that can operate with the Senate network. Finally, after seeing our gateway with the status of registered active in the Senate portal, I'll demonstrate how to change the bank of receive channels that is enabled for the gateway to communicate with end devices. Before we get started here, I just want to make sure it's clear that MultiTech Conduit gateway models can operate with two different operating systems. The first version is MLinux, and MLinux version requires the use of the command line interface. The second version is mPower, and the mPower version users will predominantly interact with using a graphical user interface in a web browser. For the rest of this video, I'll be referring to the graphical user interface as the MultiTech configuration web interface. Both operating system versions are currently available through MultiTech. Customers who have MLinux Conduit platform gateways can optionally convert their MLinux gateways to the mPower version. The conversion process is outside the scope of this video, but please feel free to leverage the provided additional resources before continuing on with this video. The majority of this video will generally only be applicable to mPower gateways. The first step is to navigate to the Senate Developer Portal, which can be found at portal.seneco.io, where if you haven't already done so, you can create a free developer profile using the Create New Account link. Logging in to the Senate Developer Portal, find the plus icon, then select Register Gateway. Make sure to input the physical address where your gateway will be located. Click Next, then select Semtech Basic Station from the drop-down menu. The 8-digit serial number and 16-digit manufacturer EUI are provided by MultiTech and can be found on the back label of the gateway or, alternatively, through the MultiTech configuration web interface. MultiTech commonly refers to the manufacturer EUI as the LoRa node or the LoRa EUI. In this video, I'll be showing you where to find both pieces of information in the MultiTech configuration web interface. The MultiTech configuration web interface is available on MultiTech gateways running the mPower AEP operating system. For our mPower MultiTech gateway, to initially access the MultiTech configuration web portal, directly connect your computer to the gateway with an Ethernet cable. By default, the gateway is operating as a DHCP server, which simply means it shouldn't be necessary to manually assign your computer's Ethernet port a static IP address. Once connected directly to the gateway with an Ethernet cable, open a web browser and navigate to 192.168.2.1 in the address bar. Some browsers may display a security warning. To continue, click Advanced, then Proceed. During the first login, all newer versions of the MultiTech Conduit family will require a commissioning process. This simply means that the credentials are set by the user during the initial access, as opposed to MultiTech using the same default username and password for each device. Consequently, please note the unique credentials that you enter in this step so that you can log in again in the future. After finishing the commissioning process and logging in for the first time, you'll be greeted by the setup wizard. It's important to note that in this video, I won't be configuring a cellular backhaul. Although it's available, the only backhaul interface that I'll be showing is the Ethernet interface in this video. It's optional but recommended to fill in the checkbox to enable call home functionality. Although using MultiTech's Device HQ management website isn't technically required or covered in this video, it's an extremely useful tool to be aware of because it's the most convenient way to upgrade the gateway's firmware. Additionally, Device HQ Management provides access to a whole library of software applications, including the Senate Packet Forwarder, which, to oversimplify a little, is a more robust version of the basic station packet forwarder. If you're interested in enrolling with Device HQ and installing the Senate Packet Forwarder, please check out our other videos which cover these topics in more detail. Otherwise, the basic station packet forwarder comes pre-installed. Moving on, since I'll be rebooting the gateway at the end of this setup wizard process, I won't be clicking the call home button now. In the time configuration menu, enter the current date, time, and time zone. Changing the values in the Network Interface Configuration menu will adjust how the MultiTech configuration web interface is accessed. In this instance, I'm going to leave the default values unchanged. Since the cellular backhaul will not be implemented in this instance, we can skip the configuration and authentication menus by pressing Next on the corresponding windows. Related to, and in line with how we chose to optionally enable the call home functionality earlier, I'll also be opting to fill in the Enable checkbox in the current Remote Management menu window, so that in the future, I'll be ready to utilize Device HQ by linking the gateway with my Device HQ account key if and when that's desired. If you already know your Device HQ account key, you can enter it now. Please keep in mind that you can edit the account key anytime in the future through the MultiTech configuration web interface. In the final menu of the setup wizard, optionally set a password for the bootloader. A bootloader helps to load the operating system into memory, which has security implications. A bootloader password prevents the bootloader from being changed by unauthorized users, and subsequently provides assurance that the gateway continues to load and operate the correct software version even once it's exposed to the public internet and the potentially malicious actors that come along with that. Now that we are finished with the initial setup wizard, you'll notice a few things in the home menu of the MultiTech configuration web interface. Not only are the serial number and LoRa manufacturer EUI listed, which you should take note of to finish registration in the Senate Developer Portal, but also the current firmware version is provided in the banner at the top of the page. Finally, you can see that the Ethernet MAC address is also listed, which is important in my case since that's how my network administrator will look up the assigned IP address after configuring the gateway as a DHCP client later on in this video. Since I didn't take advantage of the Call Home button in the first window of the setup wizard, I'll be rebooting the gateway now. Following a reboot, which allowed the Call Home functionality to execute, it's recommended to take a moment and verify that the firmware version displayed on the banner of the MultiTech configuration web interface is the newest firmware version that supports the mPower operating system offered on MultiTech's download page. Prior to recording this video tutorial, my example gateway was converted from the mLinux operating system to the mPower AEP operating system, and the firmware was upgraded to version 5.3.5 using Device HQ. Subsequently, the gateway was factory reset so that I could demonstrate the initial configuration process back for the viewers. If your gateway is still running an older mPower firmware version, you can optionally use Device HQ to upgrade to the latest. With the serial number and manufacturer EUI from the MultiTech configuration web interface, or the device label, we can transition back to the Senate Developer Portal and finish gateway registration. If you were using the Ethernet interface on your computer to access the internet, you'll need to re-establish that connection to reach the Senate Developer Portal again. Since I'm located in the United States, I'll be leaving my gateway to operate in the US ISM band. Please select the ISM band that corresponds to the region the gateway will be operating within. The United States ISM band has a maximum capacity to support 8 different subbands of RX channels, shown as 1 subband per checkbox in this menu. Although some gateways can support all 8 subbands, in this instance, the MultiTech gateway we are registering only supports a single bank of channels, and by default, the Senate Developer Portal has subband 1 enabled. The required subband will be unique per instance, depending on the requirements of that network. For example, you might have devices that only operate in one of the 8 subbands, and you need to hear them on that subband. Please note that if you need to change which subband your gateway is servicing, you can at any time in the Senate Developer Portal after registration is finished, and I will be showing you this later on in the video. Before moving on, make sure to enter a description for your gateway. Select the correct antenna type from the drop-down menu. In this instance, my antenna type is internal, and select the network connection that you plan to utilize primarily. In this case, I'll be configuring an Ethernet backhaul. Finish changing installation details as required for your deployment, then review. If everything looks good, finish by pressing the Register button. As you can see, our newly registered gateway has a status of Approved Offline. This will change soon once we finish configuring the packet forwarder to communicate with Senate. Eventually, we want to see a status of Registered Active, like this example gateway that's already been set up. While your backhaul connection is still active and connected to the Senate Developer Portal, open up a copy of the basic station documentation provided by Senate, and download a copy of the TC Trust Certificate in case you choose to use it later. Transitioning back into the MultiTech configuration web interface by reconnecting the direct Ethernet cable connection between my computer and the gateway, I'll now be showing how to configure the gateway to operate as a Semtech basic station and communicate with the Senate network. Under the LoRaWAN menu tab, select Basic Station from the LoRa Mode drop-down menu. In the newly expanded section, first select LNS from the Credentials drop-down menu and leave the station config as the default value. In the supporting basic station documentation provided by Senate, copy one of the LNS URI values. In this instance, because I'll be using the secured version of the LNS URI, I'll also need to provide the server cert contents. If you're following along with me, open the certificate using a text editor of your choice and copy the entire contents into the server cert entry box. Alternatively, if you choose to use the unsecured LNS URI value, you do not need to enter in anything in the server cert box. A valid Senate configuration doesn't require the gateway cert or the gateway key to be provided, and you can leave those boxes blank. Save your changes by clicking the Submit button. To review, we selected Basic Station from the Packet Forwarder drop-down menu. Then, in the Credentials drop-down menu, we selected LNS. By referencing the supplemental Senate documentation on Basic Station, we were provided two options for the LNS URI value. Picking one and copying the value into the URI entry box. If we selected the secured version, we additionally downloaded a copy of the Senate-provided TLS certificate and converted it to the required PEM encoding by opening the certificate file with a text editor and pasting in the entire contents into the server cert entry box. Finally, we need to configure the gateway with an address appropriate for our network. In this video, we will be setting the gateway to operate as a DHCP client, which simply means that our network will assign the gateway an available IP address once it is configured correctly and plugged in. In order for the gateway to operate as a DHCP client, we must disable the gateway's default DHCP server status. To disable the DHCP server, under Setup, DHCP Configuration, notice how there are options for both IPv4 and IPv6. Click the pen icon under the Options column, uncheck the Enable checkbox, and click Submit. Do the same for IPv6. The DHCP client operation can be configured under the Setup Network Interfaces tab. Click the pen icon under the Options column in the row named BR0. In the Mode drop-down menu, select DHCP Client and press the Submit button to save your changes. After configuring the DHCP client, once the Save and Apply button is clicked and the changes take effect, the default 192.168.2.1 interface will no longer be accessible. Once the gateway is connected to the network with an Ethernet cable, it will be assigned an IP address by the network DHCP server. To find the assigned IP address, contact a network administrator and supply them with the gateway's MAC address, which can be found on the back label of the gateway denoted as the Ethernet MAC, or in the home menu of the MultiTech configuration web interface, similarly labeled Ethernet MAC address. Once we know the assigned IP address for the gateway, that will allow us to use that IP address to access and log into the MultiTech configuration web interface in the future. After pressing Save and Apply to implement the outstanding changes, I've now disconnected my direct Ethernet connection between my computer and the gateway, and instead connected the gateway directly to the Ethernet network and restored my computer's internet backhaul connection. After a short time, we can navigate back to the Senate Developer Portal and check on the status of the gateway. As you can see, with the correct configuration and a refreshed Senate Developer Portal, the gateway status has been transitioned from approved offline to registered active. Lastly, in the event that the configuration of the gateway needs to be changed, those settings can be accessed through the Senate Developer Portal. In this view, expand the menu in the top right corner of the gateway box, then click the cog icon to open the settings menu. As an example, once in the settings menu, the RX channels that the gateway is operating on can be changed by selecting a new checkbox. Enabled by the partnership between Senate and the Helium network, gateways registered to the Senate network allow roaming Helium network traffic to be forwarded and displayed within Senat's commercial-grade user interface. Because all Helium traffic utilizes subband 2 only to receive transmissions from Helium-only devices, gateways should be configured to operate using channels 8 through 15 and 65 as shown in this example. Please note that for gateways configured as Semtech Basic Station, which is what we configured our gateway as, a power cycle may be required to apply these changes. Thanks for joining us in this video tutorial where we onboarded and configured a MultiTech Conduit AP 8-channel LoRaWAN gateway into a free Senate Developer Portal account and configured the gateway to operate as a Semtech Basic Station. If you still have questions, please consider watching our other tutorial videos, posting a question to the Senate Community Forum, browsing the Senate documentation website, or contacting Senate customer support if appropriate.